Welcome to the Speak Your Way to Cash podcast, a podcast where we teach speakers how to land paid speaking engagements and corporate contracts. Each week, we deliver high-quality content that teaches you how to level up your speaking business. Be sure to join the Speak Your Way to Cash Facebook group after having your mind blown by this information-filled episode. Now, here's your host, Ashley Kirkwood, lawyer and professional speaker. This is the Speak Your Way to Cash podcast.
Hey guys, it's Ashley Kirkwood with the Speak Your Way to Cash podcast. Today we have with us David Sanderson, and I'm so excited about this guest. He's going to talk to us about the uncanny way he started his speaking career and also how he's grown it and sustained it even in today's day and age. So welcome, David.
Thank you very much for having me, Ashley.
Of course. Thank you so much for being here. So if you could tell us a little bit about how you got started in the speaking world and what your business consists of currently.
Cool. Thank you. So I never thought I would be a speaker, Ashley. That's number one. For many years, I was in sales for 30 plus years. I was the head of security for a guy by the name of Tony Robbins for over 10 years. So I had the opportunity to be around great speakers. Never thought that I would be a speaker until after my experience of surviving a plane crash called the Miracle on the Hudson. And all of a sudden, things started coming very quickly. It was, as you probably know the story, if you've seen the movie Sully, right? I mean, it was worldwide phenomenon, right? Stuff like this just doesn't happen. But I still didn't think I was going to be a speaker. I did, the week after I got off, out of the plane and got back home, I was asked to speak at the church, but that's just speaking at church, right? You're doing that for your church. And I had nothing planned. I didn't even know what I was saying. And, things were coming so quickly. But, fortunately, I had Tony to be there. And Tony, for many years, would always ask me, why do you keep working for this company? When are you going to start doing something for yourself? And there's only so many excuses you can give to a Tony Robbins. I mean, there's only so many. I mean,
right.
He can call you out pretty quickly. So one day we were together, and we were talking. He goes, you should go out and tell your story. You need to get your act together, speak from the heart, and tell your story. So I started telling the story, but I really didn't have much behind it, right? Then I was doing it for Red Cross, and so I wasn't making any money at it, but I was doing something for society until one day. And we were actually in Chicago, Ashley. I was with Tony in Chicago. And I was doing this pretty much on the side. I was still working in sales and doing my thing. But we were in Chicago at one of his events, and he called me into his suite, and he said, you know what? It's time for you to get out. I'm going to kick you out of the nest. It's time for you to fly on your own. You go out and build this thing and do it and burn the boats. Just do it. And I'm like scared, right? I'm like, I've got 4 kids. I got college coming up. I've got all these things, right? I had some money, right? But, now I'm going to burn the boats, right? I'm ready to burn the boats. And my wife, I don't know about you, Ashley, my wife was a big advocate of that. My wife really likes certainty, right?
Yeah.
And insurance, things like that, because that's how she grew up. But I burned the boats. I left my company. I started speaking, and I started getting corporate events. And I started, one thing he told me is start speaking from the heart. And once I started speaking from the heart, and I started putting my mind together and how to do it, and it started coming together. And all of a sudden, I started getting corporate engagements, and all of a sudden, my business started growing and speaking. So it really became from, I had an opportunity. I didn't know what to do with it. Someone pushed me to do it. I burned the boats, and I did it. And for the last 8 or 9 years now, I've been very blessed to be able to speak over 1,800 times around the world. So it's something that I think sometimes you just have, like Tony said, you just got to do it. I mean, if you wait too long, you'll never get it done. And I fortunately had a mentor before Tony who gave me some strategies on how to do things, but Tony's the one who really sort of kicked me in the backside and said, get out there and do it, and I did it. So that's how I started. That
is outstanding. And the origin story of what kind of kicked you to jumpstart this career, you being a survivor, first off, for those folks who do not know, what exactly happened and how were you able to even process the story to tell it in a way that inspired others?
Great question. So the short version of the long story is January 15th, the plane left LaGuardia, got hit by birds. I was in C-15A, wasn't supposed to be on the plane. Scheduled to be on the 5 o'clock flight. So I got an earlier flight because we got done with work early that day. But, as you're approaching the George Washington Bridge, right, you head straight for the bridge, got no engines on, you don't know what's going on because no one's saying anything until the captain says his famous words, this is your captain, brace for impact. And then, okay, something's up. So, and then, about 1 minute later, 60 seconds later, when we crash into the river. We survived the crash, but then there's part two, which a lot of people don't talk about, which is the rescue, because now the plane's sinking in ice cold water in the middle of January.
Wow.
And so, I was going down, and my game plan was get to the aisle, get up and get out. And that's what I kept telling myself as we were going down, aisle up, out, aisle up, out, aisle up, out. And then I heard my mother, when I got to the aisle, start talking to me. My mom passed away in 1997, but when I was a child, she'd say something to me that popped into my head. It was, if you do the right thing, God will take care of you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was okay, but I didn't know anybody in the back of the plane, so I started climbing over the seats to go towards the back of the plane if anybody needed help. Got behind everybody, started making my way out, and we were about chest deep in 36-degree water. So we were moving pretty quick, and the first light that I saw was on the right, so I started getting out, but there was no room on the wing because, as you saw the picture, the wing was already filled up.
Right. The
lifeboat was up, so that's why I was in the plane for 7 minutes, waist deep in 36-degree water, and so I was able to get out. So that's a little bit about my story. That I was the last passenger out of the plane, and it wasn't my game plan. My game plan was to get out.
Yeah.
But God led me, and my mother and God led me in a different direction. So that was sort of the genesis of my story, right? But still, how do you put a story together that is compelling?
Exactly.
And so the week after, I talked earlier, I was asked to speak at our church. And I was asked to speak for men's breakfast. And as you were talking, your father is a pastor, and, men's breakfast is usually a few guys eating pancakes, having a good time, doing whatever they do, right?
Right.
But they publicized it around Charlotte. So about 500 or 600 people showed up at men's breakfast, and they ran out of pancakes.
Wow.
So now I had hungry, angry Methodists on my hands. I don't even know what to do now, right? I don't know what to say. I've got angry people. They're not getting fed. They paid you $5. I mean, it's like all these things kept going through my head. Then I got up and I said whatever I said, and I didn't have any organized. This is 1 week from a plane crash. I was on different areas. My head was going 15 different directions, and I was on every TV show in the country, right? Good Morning America, early show, Fox. I was on every show. So I was just getting inundated. But what happened, it was a turning point for me, Ashley. So after I got done speaking, I stood up the front, and my minister was in the back, sort of watching, right? So what's going on? People wanted to come shake my hands. That's cool. But there was an elderly lady standing in the back of the room. Now, we're in our gym. In our church, we have a gym, and the gym is attached. And so we were in the gym. So now you're sort of looking at the length of the gym, all right? We have a stage at the end of the gym. So I saw this elderly lady looking at me. Is staring right at me. She catches my eye and starts making her way up. And all of a sudden, she takes a hard right and comes up and interrupts the conversation I'm having with these two gentlemen. Just interrupts it. Grabs my arm. And I'm like, this is like, people start grabbing you. I say, whoa, right? But she looked me in the eye and said something to change that day and set me on a different path. She said, I was questioning if there really is a God. I don't believe in miracles.
Wow.
But you're physical evidence there's a God. And he does miracles.
Wow.
Thank you. And he looked me in the eye, just walked away. And then all of a sudden I saw these couple men who I was talking to start crying, physically crying. I've never seen men cry like this in my life, in public. And my minister was in the back, and I'm looking at him like, what is going on, right? I'm trying to figure, what just happened? But that's the moment I realized what happened to me that day had now impacted somebody. Before she goes to her great beyond, wherever that may be, now believes there's a God who does miracles because I'm physical evidence. So that became my mission at that point. I knew I had a mission, that God put me there for a reason, and I had to do something with it, but I didn't know how to do it. And fortunately, I had people who took interest in me, like Tony and a couple other people who sort of pushed me and showed me how to do it. But I still had to make money. How do you do it?
Yeah, that's a really tough piece for people. First of all, that's such a blessing that you survived and were literally able to tell the story. And for those of you who don't know, there's a movie, Sully, by Tom Hanks is one of the actors in it. I've seen it. It's a good movie, but it's an incredible story nonetheless. And, thank God for those that were able to survive that. So it sounds like there are a lot of people listening who probably also have a story, a pivotal moment in their lives that, really could inspire the world, but they struggle with how do you package that story? What were you did you kind of sit down and map through, okay, this is all the things that happened. These are the points in that story that really would connect with a certain audience. When did you get almost surgical with piecing together the pieces of the story that'll really be able to impact people? And what was that process like?
Super question. I haven't been asked that for 10 years, Ashley, so thank you very much. What really happened is I started thinking through this, right? I mean, what happened that day? So I was very honored and blessed. I was able to reach out to a lot of the first responders and people. I was going back and asking them what really happened, right? Because, I mean, I was going through it, right? I was right in the middle of it. Yeah. I was just trying to survive.
Right.
I was going down, right? I was heading down. I mean, it was close for me. There's 2 times I almost died. And, from the temperatures of that day and hypothermia. So I started talking to the people. I started putting the pieces together, right? And started putting it in sequence. And all of a sudden I started thinking, this is really a story of hope. And back in 2009, people were looking for hope, like they are right now.
Right, like they are right now.
Right now, we're in a pandemic. That's why I did my TED Talk about how to bounce back, called post-traumatic growth syndrome. So how do you grow from a traumatic life event? So that's how I started doing it, putting the pieces together by talking to people. And so I sort of put it in order, right? Say, okay, this is what really happened. But then that's a surgical part of it.
Yeah.
But I really needed to put myself back in the plane. And that's the difference. And that's what I tell people. I said, when people come to me and ask me for help on how to get on the stage and do things like that, I say, yeah, I mean, you got a story, I've got a story, y'all got a story. But a lot of the challenges I see with a lot of people is they have a fear of putting themselves back in that situation. And what I meant by that is this. Every time I go on stage, Ashley, I put myself back in the plane. I feel it. One of the things I talk about is people, learn by auditory, by visual, and by kinesthetic, how they feel.
Mm-hmm.
So I combine all this together, and I put myself physically back in the plane, in the ferry, in the river. And I put myself in that feeling mode where when people hear me, they can see it, they can feel like they're on the plane with me. And I say that, I tell people, I said, if you want to get back on stage, you got a story, but until you put yourself back in the plane, back on the bus, back wherever you were in that moment, so you're really in that moment, you're not speaking from the heart, you're speaking from the brain. Very few people connect with the brain.
Yeah.
They connect with the heart. The great speakers, I'm sure your father, who's a pastor, has the gift that he can take people through his message back into the heart, and that's what resonates with people. So that's how it really came together. And I started figuring it out. I started crying on stage, and people started looking at me and started crying. I'm like, I started feeling that's the connection. There's only a few people, actually, who've ever been in the cockpit who've done this, who've been in a plane crash. But there were people like me all are on planes every day sitting in the back, right?
Yeah.
And they're questioning, what would I do if I'm going through a plane crash? I'm about ready to die. God's about ready to take me, and I've got 1 minute left in my life. What's that 1 minute like, right? And I take people inside the minute, that's why I get emotional when I talk about it. So it comes from speaking from the heart, and that's one of the first chapters of the first book I would contribute to is about how to speak from the heart. So many people can speak from their brains and have all the analytics, but they have a hard time connecting.
Yes. And the connection is really the key, and vulnerability and transparency. Right. And I think that it's very difficult when you have survived something. When you've survived something, I think there's almost a part of you that wants to kind of put up a wall towards the emotions that you've experienced, because it is scary and it is very fight or flight. But to connect to people, you do have to get vulnerable, because if you're vulnerable, then they'll start trusting you and letting their guard down. And there is a moment when you're a speaker and you're getting on stage, and prayerfully, us speakers will get back on physical stages soon. But there's this moment where I think people are looking at you on stage and they're making all these judgments about you before you say anything.
Right.
And whether those judgments are good or bad, their guards are already up. Their thoughts are already off what you're saying and into their own heads. And you have to get them out of that. Right. And vulnerability helps that tremendously. So that's a really good point. So thank you for walking us through that. I'm sure that's going to be really, really helpful to people listening. So you mentioned...
I hope so. There's so many people out there that need to be out there telling their story. I just hope they all come like you and I, come from the heart first, right? Then they'll start resonating.
Yes, definitely. I agree with that.
Hey guys, it's Ashley Kirkwood here, and I know this is an amazing interview. And if you are someone who is interested in taking your speaking career to the next level, then do I have something for you? Okay, I need you to go to AshleyNicoleKirkwood.com/SYWTC live replay. That's AshleyNicoleKirkwood.com/SYWTC live replay. The link is also in the show notes that you can grab the Speak Your Way to Cash live replay, which has 7 modules, a ton of information about how you can start speaking your way to cash. Now, this training is absolutely action-packed, phenomenal. It has additional resources. It has templates. It has a podcast pitch template, a college pitch template, something you can send to media outlets to get on television. It has everything you need to develop a sales strategy, a press strategy, and a plan to skyrocket your speaking career. And it is crazy affordable, okay? So head on over there right now, AshleyNicoleKirkwood.com/Speak Your SYWTC live replay, and grab your copy today. All right, let's get back to this interview.
So you have this amazing incident that happens to you. You survive this tragic incident, but you survive it. And then you get a story together that works, that you can actually tell people and it resonates with them, and you think through all of that. So now you have your story, which I tell speakers, you know, your story, your signature speech, your methodologies, that's your product as a speaker. But then how do you even start targeting people to sell that product to so that you can make the impact that you want to make? Did you work with someone else for that? Were you cold calling? What was that process like?
I'll tell you exactly. And I look back, it was a strategy. I'm a business guy, so it was a strategy, but I didn't know it was a strategy as I was doing it. It was just, I was doing it and I figured out this is a strategy.
Yeah.
This is how I did it. So first is, as I've already mentioned, I was connected with Tony, right? And I believe in personal development. I love personal development. So one of the first people that I followed was Zig Ziglar.
Oh, wow.
And
yeah.
I love Zig Ziglar. I saw him once speak in public, and it was amazing to hear him tell stories. But one of the stories he said is this. He said his first 75 to 100 talks he gave for free because he wanted to hone his technique and hone it, right? He wanted to be able to get it down. So he did his first 75 to 100 talks for free. So that's what I want to do. I'm not going to take a cent. So I started doing that, and like I mentioned, the first ones were at church, right? And then I did like community stuff, right, for free. Mm-hmm. And then I started doing, because I had a connection with the Red Cross, because the Red Cross helped me 3 times during the rescue and after. So I was asked to speak at the local Red Cross here in Charlotte's fundraiser. And I was just getting going, right? I had nothing. I had no audio visuals. I was just getting up there talking. But they raised $100,000+ that day. There was a packed room, right?
Wow.
So I was like, okay, that was pretty cool, right? But okay. So the lady who was in charge, there's a reason I'm telling you this. The lady who was in charge of the Red Cross then asked me if I would just do a nice little talk for one of your groups, right? One little group. So I said, sure, I'll go over, and it's like 20, 30 women. Great audience for me. I love women, and I did it, right? And then a lady stood up and said, listen, I want you to come speak at our national convention in Washington, D.C. 450 women. You and 450 women. Well, how could I pass that up? Number one, plus it's 450 women and me, pretty good odds, right? But I wasn't making any money at this, right? I was just doing it from the heart. So I got to Washington, D.C., and there was a gentleman who I met who was connecting with me, and he was from a speaker bureau in Washington, D.C. So I called. I said, his name was Bill. I said, Bill, I'm speaking at the Supreme Court. If you want to come hear me speak, come on over, right? You can be my personal guest. So I spoke at the Supreme Court. And the next day, he and I met. He goes, can we sign you as a speaker? I said, what do you mean sign me as a speaker? He goes, I want to exclusively sponsor you. And I'll be your sponsor. We will book you and we will pay you to speak. I'm like, what? Pay me to speak? And so that's how I started getting paid. I knew nothing about the business side, but I just invited somebody just to hear me speak at a free event. Now, yes, it was a big event, and yes, Supreme Court's a pretty cool place to go, right? I mean, I have to admit. I mean, there's other places that are probably not as cool, right? But so he heard me, so that's how I got started paying speaking. But they were smaller gigs, right? But you know what? I was just doing it on the side, a few $1,000s here, a few $1,000s there, right? But then I started seeing I was getting invited. This is where it shifted, Ashley. I started getting invited by big companies like an ExxonMobil and BP and big companies to come speak, new leadership talks, right? For a significantly more amount of money. But I was in this exclusive arrangement.
You were being invited outside of just with the agency.
And yeah, and so they were very kind to me. They let me, they got me out of exclusive, right? I still was with them, but I wasn't exclusive. So they weren't booking me as much, but that's how I started doing it. And through the Red Cross, by giving my time for the Red Cross, I've done over 160 events for the Red Cross, and I've helped them raise over $14.8 million. That's connected me with so many leaders across the world, right? That I have no fear now picking up the phone, right? Or they call me. It's like, I saw you speak in Chicago for the Red Cross, or you come speak for Land O'Lakes in Minnesota, right? So it was by taking the strategy of Zig Ziglar, being intentionally not taking any money, served me, because I had to get it down. I had to get everything figured out. And so many people right now, Ashley, I don't know about your audience, but they think they just go speak and they deserve money right now. You haven't earned the right to ask people for money yet, right? You have to earn the right? I mean, there are some people who go to outer space and have that story, and they're good for a year. They're good, right? And then what do they got, right?
Yeah, no relation.
They haven't put the time in, right? Mm-hmm. So I tell new speakers when they approach me, for coach, I said, if you come to me and you want to get paid immediately, you're coming to the wrong guy. I'm going to show you how to do it the right way, and show you how you have to invest your time in practice and get it down, and make sure that you're adding more value first than you expect. Don't ask for money right now. If you ask for money, you haven't earned the right to ask for money.
Well, and you want to be good. You want to be able to provide an experience and a transformation and start a conversation that would not have otherwise been started without you. And I do think that now there's more emphasis on getting paid and less on adding the value. But without the value, you won't get paid. And the thing that I've always told folks that work with us is, I could help you get paid once, but you're not going to get invited back if you're not good at speaking. And a lot of folks do not invest enough on that side of the coaching spectrum, the actually learning how to tell a story, compiling it, packaging it, ensuring you know the high points, the low points, the high points, how people will feel, thinking through how people will feel when you tell your story. Because I have been in the audience when a speaker tells a story and it's just so depressing and it never goes up. It's like the whole story is a roller coaster downward, but it never goes up. There's never like and then I make it. No, it's just down. And so you feel so sad after they speak. And I always tell people, please think through how your audience will feel at all points of your story, because you don't want to open wounds you can't close in a 20-minute keynote. Like, that's not really your place.
And all people, and you know this, and I've learned this, whether you have 30 people or 3,000 people, they all are assimilating in a different way.
Yes.
Some people are assimilating visually or auditory or kinesthetically, and you have to be able to assimilate quickly with everybody in that room.
Yes.
So one of the things that I do is I have visuals and auditory. I get people feeling. I have all these things, because that way I can connect with everybody in that room in the way they want to be connected.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. That's a really good point.
I see so many people, and even I had an opportunity to speak with some rock stars, and they're really good at some things, right? But they don't evoke feeling, because they're all about the auditory and the visuals, but they're not evoking feeling, right? And so you look at somebody like an Elton John, who can evoke that feeling, right? And you're crying at the end of the song. I think it's an art and a skill, but you better get your act together. Like you said, I agree with you. You got to take people on this roller coaster. And if you don't feel the roller coaster inside, you're not going to be able to take somebody on that roller coaster.
Yes, that's very, very true. That's very true. So you actually got an agent relationship very early in your speaking career. That typically doesn't happen, at least anymore. That's not necessarily the way people are getting booked with agencies. And then the agency booked you, which is great. Now it seems like it's far more of a partnership. So there's a lot less exclusivity, but the agency is expecting you to also bring your client base to them if they're going to share their client base with you. There's also, everyone wants an agent. Everyone that I have talked to has been like, okay, well, can I just hire an agency and they book me to speak? People don't really want to do the cold calling or emailing or building the relationships on their own. They would love the agent relationship where they're just at home. Someone calls them and has them booked to speak. What is your advice to speakers on landing an agent relationship today?
Well, I was very blessed to get an agent. Then I had multiple agents. I got multiple agencies now that I work with. And what you just said is very true. And one of the things I find a lot of speakers don't want to give. They don't want to give something. So what I do is, if you give me a gig, I'll give you a gig, right? And I'll give you the 25%. You are kind enough to give me one, I'll give you one. So I always have a reciprocal relationship with every agent that I work with. But I really focus now on doing direct marketing, direct mailing, working my relationships, because candidly, I value my relationships with the agencies. But what I'm finding right now is this, especially right now, meeting planners and event planners want that one-on-one connection with the speaker.
Yes.
They want it. So earlier this year, I actually made a strategic decision to go back and start doing the basics. Because for a year, I got away from it because I was just, I was going, it was fine, everything was good, right? But what I was finding is I put together my message in a way where people, through my email direct contact, get the same experience if they see me on stage. And once I figured out how to put that together, all of a sudden I had my team's like, how do we do that? I was like, we got 16 gigs in the first 3 months, just by direct picking up the phones, writing emails.
That's amazing.
Because we did it in a different way. I put the event planners in a place where they could feel what I'm coming from, with references of other places. Of course, they want to have references because they want to be on the limb, especially right now with virtually.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have to change to be a certified virtual speaker. I mean, there's a lot of things you got to do now to give people certainty. I've gone full circle. I started out myself, having an agent, then have a lot of agents. Now I just have an agent who books me randomly now. She's great. And she just booked me this week for Vegas, which is great. And I just gave her back one. Here's one. I'll give you 25% of it just for doing the paperwork as a thank you. And you build that rapport. So, I think most agents right now would love to have that kind of relationship with somebody. That you give me one, I give you one.
Yeah,
right?
I think they would. They absolutely would. And that would and just knowing that you even have one to give them right now,
right,
they would probably be very intrigued by that as well. So the folks when you said you were getting back to basics, most of our speakers are in the first 5 years of their speaking career. So they live in the basics. So they live in the emailing, the calling, and I hate to call it cold calling. You really shouldn't be calling cold just ice cold, but they're calling people who they have appointments with, who've already have agreed to speak with them, and they're researching. And I think that it's tough for them to figure out, well, what should I price it at? And two, what's the title of the person I should be reaching out to? Those are the two big things. And it's different for everyone. And there is no set corporate budget, which I tell people, and it blows their minds. I think people think there's a speaking circuit and then you get your name in a bucket and then everyone's paid $25,000, which would be amazing, but that doesn't exist.
Yeah, that would be amazing, wouldn't it? Yes, that would be all amazing. I don't have to do 4 or 5 a year instead of doing 30 or 50 a year, right?
Yes.
So number one thing I've done this year is differently is I've broken it down to 5 niches. And, I'm not trying to be everything to everybody anymore.
That's great.
Because now you really talk about personal leadership and how this is a very narrow angle. So I broke it down into niches. I always look for the event or meeting planners.
Was your niche in the topic or in the industry that you serve?
Both. So I narrowed my topic down to personal leadership. My tagline, I voice of personal leadership.
Okay.
So I don't talk about corporate leadership. I don't talk about team leadership. I talk about leadership in crisis, right? That's me. And right now we're all in crisis, so it's going pretty well. Secondly, then I broke it down into the different niches and industry niches that I've identified that I really identify with.
Yes.
And so I basically cross it, right? So personal leadership and my 5 niches. And then what I've just done, and this has happened last week, I redid my speaker/media kit.
Okay.
And I've had this is my 3rd one, and they've all grown and now condensed down to 4 pages. I mean, I went up to 10 pages and 6 pages, but what I'm finding is people want that one place they can go and they can see the topics. They can have it's interactive. So that's why I tell you I give people the meeting and event planners who I ask, because that's exactly where I go to. Because I want to give them the experience. I have everything's interactive. So I send them the electronic version. They can click on it. They can see me speaking to 10,000 people or see me speaking to 100 people, right? Or they can see me on TV in Fox, or they can see me on TV in St. Louis.
Mm-hmm. So
they can have the experience of what they're going to get. And I found that is really attractive. And, I really do a lot of research on who is the meeting event planner. That's the person who may not be able to make the final decision, but the person who can at least get you the conversation going. That's what I always do. Unless I get a call from the vice president or somebody who says, listen, I saw you here, that's different, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm outward bound, I don't go around the curve. I don't go around you. If Ashley's a meeting planner for XYZ company, Ashley and I are going to have a conversation. I'm not going to go to Ashley's boss.
Right.
That way they trust me.
That makes a lot of sense. And so are you, because I think at your stage, you've been doing this for a while. You have a lot of credentials. You've been in a lot of media outlets, featured in a lot of media outlets. Are you still doing all of this research, connecting, copywriting yourself? Or do you have a team behind you?
So I do it myself. Plus, I do have a team. I have a manager now because I found out, Ashley, and this is something that new speakers will learn unless they're really good at it. I was really good at booking myself. I wasn't good at all the receivables and everything else.
Yeah.
So I got myself in a niche, because I had somebody who didn't pay me for six or 7 months, right?
Ooh.
And they were holding back, and I didn't have big deposits. Thought people were great, and they'll pay me on time. It's business.
Yeah.
You got to approach your business. So I've got a manager now. I've got a publicist now. I've got a brand manager now, and I've got people who will deal with that, so I can focus on content, and I'm on my third book right now. We're finishing my third book, even as we speak. So I also would tell speakers, you don't have to have a book initially, but as you're going through this journey, you get yourself a book.
Yeah.
But that will get you the media. That will get you the other things, right? And I'm in my third book right now, and it's going to be published. I've got a publisher, and you learn how to do that too. As a lawyer, you understand. Sometimes you make a lot of mistakes when you don't have all the I's dotted and the T's crossed.
Yeah.
I didn't. I learned, right? Hard lessons.
So with the Moments Matter book, did you self-publish that, or was that through a publishing house?
So the first book that I was involved with, we had a publisher, and I got 1/25th of 1/50th, which means I got enough to go to McDonald's with my family, right?
Yeah.
So, right? So we self-published the second book, right? And it was a great experience because you learn everything about how to put the book together,
Mm-hmm.
but it's all on you.
Right.
The marketing and everything else, right? That was a great learning experience. This book's going to be published by a publisher in Los Angeles. So, yeah, I'm going back and forth. I think a hybrid approach, I think everybody needs to publish their own book at least once because you can control the process
Mm-hmm.
and learn how it's done. Everybody wants a publisher, right? Give me a publisher, and all they'll do is go out and, you'll still write it. You'll still do all this. Oh, yeah, they may get it in the store, but you can do all the marketing yourself, right?
Yeah.
Why not self-publish it and find somebody like, they say, a Red Cross that can help you market it and donate 10% of your funds back to them. That's what I did. That's why we sold over 60,000 copies,
And how did was that based on your relationship with them? So you went to them and said, hey, I'd love to do this. I'll do some speaking engagements for you all. You all help me promote this book, and I'll donate 10% of the proceeds because they have a network that's vast.
They're the second largest brand in the world behind Mickey Mouse. It's the Red Cross.
Amazing.
So I knew they had a big brand, and I was already raising money for them. So I just told them to say, listen, I'll donate 10% of my book, net proceeds, back to you. All I ask for you to do is let me just share the book when I'm out speaking with your folks. So I set up a link. If you go to my website right now, DaveSandersonSpeaks.com, you go at the bottom, you can see the link we set up. So every time someone buys a book, they get 10 cents on the dollar of the net proceeds. And that's how we've helped raise close to $15 million in addition to other fundraising. So I would suggest if you're going to do a book, find a philanthropy, whether it's Save the Animals or child trafficking, whatever it may be. It's close to your heart, right? Whatever's close to you, go to them and say, listen, I will do this. You help me, get my word out. I will help you raise money and get your word out. Everybody wants to get their word out, right? Especially right now.
Yes.
Right?
Definitely. And there's a lot right now. I mean, it's just so easy for folks to create content, anyone, that there's a lot of noise in the marketplace. And so if you can do something to really clarify your message and get through to people amongst all of the messages that are competing for people's time and attention, that's going to be super helpful. So that book tip is very, very, very helpful.
Hey guys, Ashley Kirkwood here, and I just want to take a moment to invite you out to the Speak Your Way to Cash retreat. If you enjoy this podcast, then you will love the Speak Your Way to Cash 2020 retreat in October. This retreat is for speakers looking to grow their speaking businesses, land corporate or college clients, and skyrocket their earning potential as a speaker. The in-depth sessions at this multi-day retreat will leave you understanding exactly the high-level client acquisition strategies that I use to land corporate clients. You'll also know the exact steps you need to be taking to grow your current business. Let's get to the nitty-gritty. The sessions are amazing. We talk about selling your signature speech, and we actually have time to go over the techniques of speaking. So if you want to become a better speaker as well as a higher paid speaker, then you should come out. We have another session called TEDx Secrets. Bring your laptops. We are actually going to be looking up and applying to TEDx Talks at the retreat. This session will be critical if you're someone who wants to land a TEDx Talk. Client secrets. You'll hear from actual clients about what they want from speakers just like you, and selling success. We cannot do a retreat without talking about selling. But here's the session that I'm most excited about. We are going to do a vision organizational chart party. That means we are going to have not just vision boards, but vision org boards. We are going to map out how your speaking organization should be staffed, what you want that to look like, and how to use global outsourcing in a way that lets you fund the positions in your company that are currently open. So it's for you if you're ready to level up. If so, meet me in Chicago in October. Reserve your seat now. I'm only taking 30 speakers on this retreat. So go to ashleynicolekirkwood.com/2020 retreat. And the best part is you can get early bird pricing now of $550, or you can reserve your seat for just $75 down and make payments until the retreat. That's right. You can either pay in full and get early bird pricing of $550 for the entire 2-day experience, or you can reserve your seat for just $75 down. Whatever you decide to do, make sure you're in the room. It's going to be impactful, and I'm ready to help you start speaking your way to cash in October. Again, the website is ashleynicolekirkwood.com/2020 retreat. See you soon. Can't wait, guys.
And so what are your thoughts on whether it's a good time to be a speaker in the midst of COVID and the pandemic? And I don't really see an end in sight to what we're dealing with now, not a defined end. There are some folks who have personally decided that it's over and they're just living their lives again. But there's not a real end in sight. And a lot of companies have almost decided they're going to be virtual for an indefinite amount of time for all extracurricular activities, big events, galas, etc. So what do you think about that in terms of the speaking profession? Is it still viable, and what pivots need to be made?
I think it's definitely viable right now, but you have to be flexible. What I'm finding is the larger companies that I deal with, yes, it's going to be virtual, but you better get certified. You better have everything, a certification. So when I'm going to an event planner or they're coming to me, I can show them that I have the setup.
Yep.
I can do it. If I go down and your system goes down in 30 seconds, I can be back up, things like that. So that's number one. But number two, I am finding that some companies and organizations are going to go live and in person. Now, there are also riders that I'm now finding out in the agreements I'm signing that if something does go on, right, which possibly could go on, probably may go on, is that I am able to pivot and do a virtual event instead of a live event. So I think right now, everybody's looking for that one big event to say, if we're going to go live, we're going to do it. Because no one wants to do it yet. No one wants to do it just yet, right? Everybody's like, But, so my first live event is August 5th in Indiana. Well, Indiana is not as inundated as some of the other states.
Right.
And we're going to go live, right? But we have a contingency plan. So my recommendation I tell speakers is, you better have your system set up. You better have your green screen, everything set up, right? Your lights.
Yep.
Right? Like you and I talked about, I got a mic, but I have a backup plan like we're talking right now,
yep.
Right? And because if you want to be in a speaking engagement, if you don't have it, professional speakers have already invested in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yep, that's so true. Mics, backdrops, making sure you have an office space where it's good to record, they can hear you. having multiple computers even. And we're doing a virtual event in October for speakers. And we have, different media coming in to talk about getting press and all these different things for our virtual mastermind. And I don't want to use Zoom. So we've been testing out now, my team and I, all the different platforms that you can use to have an online event and figuring out which one will provide the best experience. And what's awesome is a lot of the corporations I work with, they are only familiar with Zoom, and there's another one that Microsoft
Teams.
Microsoft Teams, and then there's I think there's another one like WebEx, I believe it is.
WebEx and BlueJean. Yep.
Yeah, and the thing is, those aren't necessarily the best, most cutting edge platforms to provide virtual content. So in testing these out, the awesome part is we can offer these to our customers and say, well, we'd love to do this. This platform is a lot better. We can brand it. We can co-brand it. We can have more interaction. It's seamless. So, even testing out tech, and some speakers are terrified of tech, but you have to test out the tech and figure out what's new and innovative that you can offer your clients.
Well, that's exactly great. What I've done is have a backup to a backup. And there's an organization I'm now connected with. You probably have heard of this if you're not already connected. It's GenieCast. That already has the platform. So I have now put myself into the GenieCast world, working with them out of St. Louis. So if I'm working with especially a big corporation or a big event, they already have a proven platform. They have the horsepower, right?
Yep.
That they can come in and just put it right in instead of depending on Zoom, like we're talking right now, or the other ones. That gives meeting planners certainty. And that's what people are looking for, because there's so much uncertainty right now. So people like GenieCast give people certainty. And that's so I would also recommend speakers who are getting into this world, identify somebody like a GenieCast or something like that, that if you're going to go after big events, you better be able to give them certainty. And these people have already got the horsepower, because Zoom, you can get Zoom bombed very quickly, as I found out, right? BlueJean, you may not be able to get the background. Microsoft Teams, I may not be able to get all the content the way I want it to look. I mean, there's always a problem. So that's my backup to my backup plan. So plus another thing that I've done, and just I live here in Charlotte, about 2-3 miles away, there's a studio with a camera. So, if it comes to, if I'm doing a big event, I will pay them $200, and I'll go down there. And I'll work in their studio because it's contained. They got the horsepower and they got the backgrounds, right? So if you're in a major city like you are and I am, there's places like that all around.
Yeah, there are.
So I identify those places, right? So
a place with strong wireless.
It's exactly right. And someone who's got the horsepower, right? It comes down to horsepower, because I do audio visuals through my presentation. So, you got to have the horsepower. So I just can't emphasize that point you said enough. Is I'm glad you're doing multiple different platforms during your event and testing them out, right? So this you might do at your event one on Zoom, one on Microsoft Teams, one on this, so you can show people the difference you're going to get, right?
Yeah.
Make your own decision up, but this is why we're going with this one. Let's show you, right?
Yep. And it does help to give them that certainty and help them on the tech side of things and let them know what you have in place. Because it's very different doing an event virtually versus in person. We've also implemented prizes. So to get the participation going and letting them know we're going to do a raffle, and they've already paid us to speak. So I don't mind, putting $50 in and doing a gift raffle at the end. I mean, what's the big deal? But the client will think it's phenomenal, and they've really appreciated it, especially in training intern classes and large groups of employees who otherwise are so tired of virtual presentations. It's like virtual fatigue. I've heard someone say they have Zoom fatigue. So
yeah, I'm gonna get off Zoom for a week. In a couple of weeks, I gotta get off Zoom for a while, right?
Yeah,
I agree. I'm zoomed out, right?
No, definitely. And so have you experienced, we haven't really experienced clients wanting a discount, quote unquote, for virtual presentations. Have you experienced any of that pushback on your rates now that it's virtual, or how has the rate conversation been in this era? That's
a good question, and yes, I have. In fact, the agreements that I've signed, if they're not going live, they're usually about 50 to 75% of my asking price. So yes, and I've acquiesced to that, because candidly, I'm not traveling, and they're getting they have to absorb a lot of the risk themselves now, right? The technology and things. So I've mentally put myself over that hump, Ashley, say, you know what? yes, if I get $10,000, I'll do virtual for $6,000.
Okay.
You know, I will, but I will guarantee them. I mean, I've got other green screens. I got the whole thing. I will guarantee on my end, but they still got to work on their end, right?
Right.
So there's risk.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And now when you do that, are you taking something away? So if they say, okay, we only have $6,000 of your $10,000 rate, are you saying, okay, great, well, I can do that, but some of the tech components that you may have gotten at the $10,000 rate, we can't guarantee it at that rate?
No, I don't. They'll get the same presentation they would get on live and in person. So they'll get the exact same thing. But if their system goes down, right?
Right.
So I know they're absorbing some risk likewise. But no, I tell them, you're going to get the live and in person Dave Sanderson, and you know I'll be up, I'll do my thing, right? But you won't have that belly to belly feeling, right?
Right.
It's hard to get it. I'll work hard to make sure I can get it, but you know, they'll get everything from me, from the audio visuals to the music to the lights and everything else that they would get when I'm walking on stage on your sales conference. So
do you stand up when you present virtually?
Yeah, I actually have another green screen that actually wraps around my office. This is a green screen, right? Actually, a picture of my former office in Florida, right?
Nice.
So this picture. So this is the one I'll do like when I'm talking to somebody like one-on-one.
Yeah.
Right. But I've got a green screen that goes all the way around my office, so I can stand up, right, and I can walk around. You know, I've seen Tony do it virtually so many times. I'm walking around doing it. Yes, he's got the technology, and yes, he's got the funds to do it. But what I've learned is I can do the same thing. It only costs me $30 for a bigger green screen, and I'm getting one more camera, so I can have two different angles. Right now, I've got one angle, so I am investing in another camera, so I can have multiple angle shots of me as I stand up and move around. If I'm doing one-on-one like this, I'm sitting down.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. That's really good. That's really good to know, because I think it's good to know what the standard is out there. And looking at someone like a Tony Robbins, I mean, he's obviously been the standard in the industry for a long time, and you have the benefit of seeing how he moves and how he operates. So that's really, really helpful for you to share with us, definitely.
Yep. I've seen him do it, you know, like the hologram thing, right? Where it looks like he's on stage in Melbourne, Australia. I mean, it's amazing. But a lot of us don't have half a million dollars to invest in that. I mean, you may, I don't.
No,
right?
Not yet.
You know,
we're working on it.
I mean, you just had a child, so I think you'll be a few days before you get to that point.
Right.
But you got to work with what you got, right?
Yep.
So right now, I'm just making those small investments, but I've also have two backup plans, right? A studio down the street or GenieCast. So I always will have 2 or 3 options. Because one thing that Tony taught me is you have one thing, right? It is the decision. 2 things is an option, but if you have 3 things, you have a choice. And in life, it's all about choices. Yeah. So you always want to, in making a decision, you always have to have 3 choices to be able to go. So I've set myself up to have 3 different ways I can do things in this world. So yes, to answer your question from 5-10 minutes ago, the speaking business is still there, but you better be ready, because now people have to up their game. Yep. And you better up your game. You know? Yeah. Especially if you want to be professional. You want professional rates. You want professional, service. You want to think about how you can serve the client and give them what they need. And I think service, a lot of people focus on acquisition, but service is what's really going to keep you in business long time, surviving pandemics, surviving all these other things. It's going to be the service. Yep. Yeah, and I wrote a blog last week about service as a rent that you pay to live on earth. It's all about service. Yeah, right? It really is. I heard that from Muhammad Ali when I was a kid, and it's one thing I remember from Muhammad Ali. Service is the rent that we all pay for living on earth. Yeah. So you're exactly right. You're exactly right, Ashley. Yeah, I love that. Well, this has been a phenomenal conversation. I feel like I could speak to you all day because you just have so much knowledge and wisdom to offer. But I really appreciate you spending the time to talk to the Speak Your Way to Cash community. How can people contact you, connect with you, and where can we find the books that we'd like to support? Well, thank you so much. So I tell people right now, like we talk about niches, just go to LinkedIn, because I put new content out on LinkedIn every day. So go to David Sanderson on LinkedIn, or go to my website for the book. I've got all 3 books out there. That's DaveSandersonSpeaks.com. And if you go to me directly, I'll autograph the book, but you can always go to Amazon if you need the book likewise, and you can get the Kindle version likewise. But the next book will be coming out here in about 2 months, and I'll be more than happy to share that with you when we get to that point.
Oh, yes, please do. Please do. And I'll update the show notes with the new book links. And I'll link to his LinkedIn, and I'll also have a link sent to the website so you all can see that. He has his beautiful one-sheeter on there, so you can kind of see how a pro really does it, okay? But thank you
very
so much. Thank you.
Good luck with your child.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, she just made 2 months at the time that this was recorded. So she's not crying right now, which is a good sign. She knows how good this interview is.
That's right. Oh, well, she'll be a speaker one day. Thank you very much.
Definitely. Thank you so much, David. And everyone, I will link to everything that David mentioned. So much wisdom here. His website is DaveSandersonSpeaks.com. So you can find all of his information there. And thanks so much for listening to Speak Your Way to Cash.
All right, wasn't that interview amazing? If you're anything like me, you have pages full of notes. But here's the thing. Before you head out, I want you to go to Facebook.com and join the Speak Your Way to Cash Facebook group. That is where I am. That's where a ton of other speakers are, a ton of other people who listen to the show. We all congregate there and chat. And it's 100% free. Now, if you're ready to take your speaking career to the next level, I have 2 ways for you to do that. One, you can go to ashleynicolekirkwood.com/SYWTC live replay and pick up the live replay. That training is 7 modules, chock full of information. It's crazy. Go over there, read all about it. Or if you want a more personal experience, you already know that you want to be a speaker. You're ready to fully commit and you want someone to walk you through it and save you tons of time Googling and doing it on your own, then book a VIP day with me. You can go to ashleynicolekirkwood.com, scroll down until you see the VIP day section and get more information on that there. All right. Thank you guys again for watching. Please do not forget to leave us a review. That is how we keep this train rolling and get some of the best speakers in the world to get on this show. So please, please, please leave a review. Shoot me a message on Facebook or Instagram, and Facebook in the Speak Your Way to Cash group, Instagram at the Ashley Nicole Show. And I'd be more than happy to chat with you and say hi. All right, y'all have an awesome, awesome day.